hold on there real nice.
Holly, just wait until you get to a 90% success rate with your fry.
Yeah, scared of that.
All right, guys, we're live. Shh. All right. And there you go. You get a little preview of the pre-show. We always jump in the Zoom early, guys, and have a lot of fun. But now you're here with us, so happy Wine Wednesday. I hope that your week has been fabulous. Your seahorses and other aquariums are doing well. I'm sipping on some Chardonnay. I've been sick all week, so sorry I've been a little absent. So we had to take it easy and do a little Chardonnay lightness. No heavy Merlots or Pinot Noirs tonight. So I hope you've grabbed your glass and are drinking on some fine wine with me. And today we have a very special guest. But before we get to the guest, the other cool thing we're doing tonight is that Siren Song Seahorses, Miss Holly's company, is again sponsoring this episode. And if you paid attention to the post, we're going to do a raffle of some of her very, very, very cool fragrances at the end. Whoops, I'm holding it wrong. But these are essential oils. She talked last week about what's in them. She can do it again if she'd like, but I love them. I'm not the girly type, as y'all know, but I love this stuff. The scent lasts. It's amazing. Soft skin. Booyah. And on her website, she'll tell us a little bit more in a second, but on her website, she eventually plans to sell seahorses, but currently you can get these essential oils. You can get the new cool angel pendants, which she'll describe a little bit more. And Holly, what else can we find on your website?
Well, we've got also a service. I make these pendants from UV resin. I mount my poor little fry, that didn't make it in there so people can use them, as a charm they want. I don't know if you can see very well here, but yeah, they're just clear with the little seahorse inside. You can run a little chain or cord through them or some fishing line. You can hang them in your window or in your car, wear them around your neck. They're just a cool little memorial for the seahorses. But besides that, I also have a service on my website. If you have your own special fry or dwarf seahorse that you'd like to see mounted, I will do it for you. So people can see all that on my website. It's sirensongseahorses.ecwid.com. And you can also find Siren Song Seahorses on Facebook, and there's a link to that webpage there as well.
And I'll make sure that you have links to both Siren Song Seahorses and K&P Aquaculture in the description as soon as we're done, and I'll try to put them in the comments in a little bit. And I just want to say, I think that the pendants are a really cool idea. When my mom passed a few years ago, it was really awful. I wasn't ready to lose her. Same way we feel about our seahorses, I'm sure. And that's what I'm trying to show you here, is my beautiful angel. It's literally angel too, so kind of funny. But keepsake that my mom's always with me, so I think it's really cool, and I want my seahorses independent too. The sad times that we lose them, by the way, but it's still a commemorative thing, and I really like it. And Siren Song Seahorse is awesome, so make sure you check out the website. But Mary Grace, I totally see that you have a question, and we will get to that. But real quick, we've got a guest, so we'll help you for sure as soon as after we talk to the guest. Okay. But I wanted to now, thank you for waiting so patiently. Let me spotlight you, my dear. And, nope, wrong person. Hang on. Oh, what fun. Okay, it's freezing up on me. Gotta love the Zoom. There we go. Okay, I'd like to announce our special guest, Krista, who is the K in K&P Aquaculture. Welcome, Krista.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Gotcha. And Krista actually has already joined me to do a Women in Reefing feature video, so make sure to watch out for that. It's coming in like a week. But so we've already got the goods on her, but we decided we had to share on Wine Wednesday too. So Krista's drinking with me. What are you drinking tonight?
Oh, I'm a Stella Rosa kind of girl.
Oh, I like it. And I think it's freezing up a little bit, guys. Tell me in the comments if it is. I'll do what I can to fix it. But Krista, let's jump right in and tell me how K&P Aquaculture started? What made you decide to start a company?
All right. Well, I guess we can go back a few years. I met my girlfriend in Hawaii and I was doing coral conservation at the time. Flash forward a few years, we ended up moving to Washington and I was working for the zoo up at Point Defiance and actually helped them open their newest aquarium. And at the time I was kind of like getting into the hobby side of it, got my own tank and it was like a little 14-gallon Innovative Marine. I filled that thing up with corals in less than a month. Shortly after that, I convinced my girlfriend to get another tank, and that tank led to another tank. Pretty soon, I got her into the hobby, and we actually started growing corals ourselves. And I started actually taking what I learned in school and what I learned at the zoo and started incorporating that into my work. And in January, my girlfriend and I officially opened our business.
And what's the what all do you gosh, I'm getting
So
tongue-tied
right now
already. What all do you offer? Sorry.
we're offering new things all the time. We are definitely growing. We started off with live food, so we actually do grow our own copepods. We have like the Tisbe, the Apocyclops, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, the Tigriopus. So we'll actually sell bottles of that. We have 2 strains of phytoplankton. So we do Nanochloropsis and the Tetraselmis, which is really great to increase your copepods, especially for, people with seahorses, dragonets, pipefish, and then also feeding corals as well. That slowly turned into brine shrimp because then I ended up getting some dwarf seahorses and I started breeding those. It's been an up and down process. I mean, I've learned a lot in it all. Definitely things I've been changing and I guess fine tuning just so I can kind of work around those seahorses. They're always a new story, I guess, every day. There's always something with them. And then we also started offering corals. Our coral selection is definitely growing fast. So every week we offer new corals on the site. So most of them are grown by us. And if they're not grown by us, they're grown here locally. So from other coral growers around the area.
Yeah, it's really important. Like aquaculture is literally part of your name. So that's like a really important thing to you in your business, correct?
It is. We're all focused about conservation here. When we're not working on selling and promoting aquacultured corals and captive bred fish, we're actually out doing beach cleanups, trying to get the community involved as well. And then at the end of the year, we're actually going to do a thing with our customers and let them choose on where we're going to donate 10% of our proceeds.
That's so cool. I just love it.
Which is really great to increase your copepods, especially for
Yeah,
it's definitely been fun. It's definitely a dream coming true. And then also feeding.
Okay, hold up.
Well.
We got some feedback. I'm so
that
sorry.
Slowly turned into you're good. Shrimp because then I ended up getting some.
Do you have any other tabs open,
and
Krista?
I started breeding those.
Or
It's
Cheryl?
been, up and down process. I mean, I've learned a lot in it all. Definitely things I've been changing and.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on, y'all. Sorry. So sorry. It's Wine Wednesday. You guys know how it is. But yeah, are we hearing it repeat over and over? You know what? Oh my God. It's me. Sorry. It was me. Okay, all fixed. I'm so sorry, Krista. It was.
No, you're good.
It was me. I'm sitting here accusing you guys of having a tab open, and I had it open. Nice job, Kelly. All right. And okay, real quick, and I have a few more questions for you, but Harkins Aquatics asks, what species of coral are you doing?
We have quite a few different species. I mean, we've got different LPS, SPS, soft coral varieties. It really just depends on what either I've cut or what is available here locally. So recently I just put on the site some really nice ORA red gonies that we have had grown locally here, some Space Invader. We had a few SPS. I think a lot of them sold out pretty fast. We also do like the Colorado Sunburst. I've got a Chicago Sunburst, different types of torches. Yeah, we kind of just, as I can harvest them, I usually will give them about a month to heal and then we'll allow them or we'll post them on our website for sale.
So just check the website. Gotcha. And were you going to tell me something about the tank behind you? I feel like I cut you off. Sorry.
Oh, this will be my seahorse tank eventually.
Ah.
Currently, it's my goni tank because my gonies love the tank. They love the phyto every day.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure that we'll think of more questions about the actual business. So, We'll come back to it, but yeah. So one of the things that really, when we talked at the Women in Reefing Zoom, that really caught me, and I was like, you got to come on Wine Wednesday, is that you're not only keeping and breeding dwarfs, but you're like one of the only people that I know of that are doing it, because it's a lot more work. So can you tell me about your experience with dwarfs, like how you set it up, all of it?
Yeah, so I've definitely tweaked it quite a bit. When I first set it up, I wanted it to be where it was in about 100 gallons total, but in a small tank. So I plumbed it actually into my entire system. Above it is it's a 50 gallon, it's a custom, but it's like a low boy, very shallow tank. And I use that mostly just for like excess frags. And then in the sump, I actually turned that into a predatory tank,
Oh my.
just more for fun. So I have a orange toadfish who lives down there. And so it's all kind of connected together, but the sump, basically the return goes into the frag tank, and then it overflows and goes down into some tubes and then into this 20-gallon tall seahorse tank that I've turned it all into. And so it only has an overflow and then that return pump going into it. So it has a decent amount of flow in there, but there's no power heads or anything for the seahorse to actually get stuck in. And because it's plumbed into the entire system, it also doesn't have to worry about heaters, which is, I know, another big issue with dwarfs. And so because of that, the water is actually 74 degrees the last time I checked, like yesterday morning or yesterday evening. Typically you do want around like 72 to 74 degrees with seahorses, a little cooler than reef tanks. So it's kind of perfect the way that it all set up, because as it goes up into the reef tank, it's 77 degrees, but then it goes down through the pipes, cools down, and it actually is perfect temperature for my seahorses.
And that's so cool, because we've had so many people ask, can I plumb a seahorse tank into a reef tank? And we're always like, no, because then you're going to be at 80 degrees or whatever, but you're showing people how, or telling people how. So really
yeah,
cool.
it
Go ahead.
definitely was discovered by accident. I will say that, before I put the seahorses in. And then it was originally supposed to be a refugium, and I just didn't like the way it was. So I switched it around, and I left some of the macroalgae in there, but kind of just worked around them and turned it into their tank. The only downside with that, though, is the breeding process. Because when they actually have their babies, those babies will go into the overflow still like fairly quickly. Even if I have netting and mesh and sponge over it, I really didn't have a lot of success. So I actually ended up moving the males when they're like, they first start looking pregnant. I'll usually kind of keep an eye on it. I know it's when around 14 days that their gestation period is. So I've actually been moving the males over into a 10-gallon separated tank with only a sponge filter. I haven't seen the results of that yet, so we're trying out this new technique, and hopefully it will be more successful. My last batch, I only actually got one baby that had survived throughout the entire process and lived to adulthood. So I'm hoping that this next time will be more successful.
Well,
What's your primary food source that you're using for your dwarfs?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Your primary food source that you're using?
I'm using enriched baby brine shrimp. So I hatch it daily, and I'm basically my process is have you ever seen like the cylinder brine shrimp tubes that they use? I really like those a lot because the bubbler is underneath it, so you just got a perfect flow. There's nothing for them to get trapped in. And it takes about 24 to 48 hours for them to hatch. So I usually will wait a full 24 hours. And after that 24 hours, I'll add some of our phytoplankton into it. And then that way they can feed for the next day or so. And then that's when I'll harvest them. And so I have them on alternate ones so that every day I'm still harvesting, but they have enough time to sit and feed on them.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was just curious. Dwarfs are a whole different world than seahorses.
They have taught me a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I think it's so cool, is that, I personally have never kept dwarfs. When people ask me about dwarfs, I don't know what to tell them, because I'm like, it's literally like keeping fry. So being successful with dwarfs is a great step in the right direction, because you plan to expand, right? You plan to do even more species.
Oh yeah. So basically we just stick to what we're good at. And as soon as we become successful in it, then we'll add on to something new.
One of my favorite dwarf systems was set up by a friend of mine who'd been in the hobby for many years. She lives up in Seattle. She set up a 40-gallon breeder with, I don't remember how big, the sump was at least 30 gallons. And basically what she did is she started the whole thing with a variety of different types of copepods. and then of course added the Fido and all. And she literally got to the point that her males were delivering 17, 18, sometimes 19 fry at a time. And they were growing so fast, but it was because of the way she had the system set up. It was an amazing, because everybody says you can't keep dwarfs in a big tank, but she used the big tank to propagate the food source for them that they would not have in the wild. And it was so cool.
I've heard of many people being successful when they like do the feeds and the photo and all that with the dwarfs. I think even Dan does, but I'm loving the fact that you've got this plumbed into a system that's able to reduce the temp as it goes down. I mean, that's just insane to me. And do you think that the reason that you are so successful with the dwarfs to begin with, and I have no doubt you'll be successful with the fry, is because you were so good at the live feeds to begin with?
I mean, I would hope so. I'm definitely doing daily feedings, and I usually like to actually split it up. So when I first harvest it, I'll keep my batch and I'll just separate it throughout the day, so that I'll just pause the water flow and leave it just like that way they can actually feed. And I actually, I like turkey baste and squirt a little bit of brine shrimp in each area that each seahorse is in, just to make sure that they get enough food. But I like to do that as many times as I can. So that way, anytime I just happen to walk past and check on them, I'll turn off the flow, I'll feed them for a little bit, turn on the flow again a few minutes later. It definitely is more time consuming, but it's not a lot of work, I guess, necessarily, if you're willing to put the time in.
Makes sense. And so, yeah, sorry. And if you've already kind of answered this, I'm sorry. It's Wine Wednesday. I'm on wine. But but no, what I was going to ask is, so there's actual flow, because most people don't have very much. I mean, there's some, but not very much flow in the dwarf tank. So you're turning it off to feed them. Do you see a lot of waste, or I mean, not waste. Do you lose a lot of Artemia, or are they eating it?
I mean, I would say they definitely eat some. And then I also have in with them, the adults, I have two, a male and female ruby red dragonet. And I think I have a video somewhere, either on my Instagram or somewhere on my social media, but my female is so fat, she can barely even swim. And then I also have a pipefish. So all of them kind of feed on the excess as well. Usually the seahorses, they don't tend to move around a lot. They'll just sit in their one little spot and feed. Yeah. And then the pipefish, he swims around the whole tank and he'll feed. And the mandarins will the dragonets will come and they'll scoot along the bottom and they'll feed on whatever's there. But in that tank, I actually also have tons of mysid shrimp. They're like mysis, but actually cuttlefish really enjoy them as a treat. But they reproduce very quickly. I don't know how it ended up getting in my system to begin with, but they did. So every time I pick up a rock or move anything into that tank, you can just see them. They're just swarming the entire rock.
Okay, and now I've got to throw I promised you no surprise questions, but this is something I'm actually curious about. If you can't answer it, no big deal. But you just said mysid versus mysis. What's the difference? Do you know?
To be honest, I mean, I know that it's different as far as species. I don't know enough about them to say if there's a nutrients difference. Mm-hmm. I just know that when it comes to raising cuttlefish, they actually need mysid shrimp. That's why it's so hard to raise them.
Gotcha. I really just had no idea. What, Cheryl?
The primary difference is true mysid shrimp are a saltwater species. Mysis are basically what you'll get from hikari, PE. Those are either freshwater or brackish water species. And the primary problem with the mysis is they lack the lipids, the DHA and EPA, necessary for saltwater fish. So they become, this is one of the problems we have with breeding, is they're not getting sufficient lipids, which are required because saltwater fish do not use proteins the way we do. It doesn't do them any good. It makes no difference to them. They need the lipids.
Well, that's it's interesting because I swear I thought that hikari was the saltwater. I know PE is freshwater, but they also do a lot to make sure that they are, right. Good. And either way, and either way, how cool that she had some mysids, right? Yeah. So she's got the good stuff. So
they'll eat anything.
Sure. And Krista, so are the dwarfs for sale already, or are you waiting until you get more?
They aren't yet. Yeah, I kind of get really attached to them. So I mean, eventually I will separate some and actually have them available. Currently, right now, I'm kind of just breeding and selective breeding, trying to pick what colors I've been wanting most out of. My favorite are the calicos. If you've seen them, they're more of like the gold tan color, and then they have like black speckles on them or patches on them.
Yep, and you guys, if you haven't seen them, you need to go check out, and I'll put the links in the description when we're done. But K&P Aquaculture is it on Instagram that you're, or I know you're on TikTok, you're everywhere, but
yeah, we got TikTok, we got, I know we're not super active on YouTube yet. We're planning on starting to get more into the videos soon. But then we also have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I think that covers most of them.
Well, I'll tell you
Are
what.
you gonna,
Oh, go ahead,
you're
Cheryl.
going to get into Erectus?
I want to. That's what this tank is for. So my plan is to get a pair, male and female, of the fire reds from the Kona, what is it called? Ocean Rider in Kona.
Yeah.
I just haven't done it yet. I haven't pulled the trigger. I
Those
want it to be perfect.
are expensive, the reds.
They're $400 a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Krista, when you do decide to take that plunge, I'm going to make sure you're connected with Cheryl, because she's had a really great experience with Ocean Rider, and she's like seahorse breeder extraordinaire. And you are too. I mean, absolutely. You're obviously.
I mean, no, I have plenty. I still have lots to learn. I'll definitely be reaching out.
I've been at this over 15 years, and every day I gain more knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't stop.
We're all still learning, for sure. But yeah, and I've already called dibs on the first pair of fire reds that you sell, captive bred by you. That's what I want. And when you do get more into YouTube, if you do any live streams, I'll be sure to tell you what I figure out about this delay. Sorry, everybody, and I apologize, Krista. There's a little bit of a delay, but we're still getting the information that you're sharing, and you look beautiful, so that's all that matters, right?
Thank you.
Okay. So,
You'll find Erectus are easy.
Okay, that's good.
They produce like several hundred at a time.
Oh.
And
why didn't I start with those sooner?
They produce nice big fry. They're actually, once you get the hang of it, they're relatively easy to raise compared to a lot of the other species.
Do you have babies available?
No, I have adopted seahorse fry.
Okay.
And raised them, but no, I have some. Right now I'm gearing up. I bought some seahorses from Ocean.
Nice. Yeah, that's the plan. I definitely am excited. I want to get more sponges and some gorgonians in there.
Yeah, you have gorgonians for sale too, right? Or are they not for sale yet? Okay.
Currently, I have some photosynthetic ones. I think I have the grubes on currently, and then I just made a frag of we call it the sexy sea rod here in Washington. It's another really pretty, like purplish photosynthetic gorgonian that's like thicker.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And seahorses love them for sure. That's so awesome. And
do dragonettes. Start raising dragonettes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the plan. I keep hoping that my female will like do something, because she's so fat. But I think that they lay their eggs, don't they, instead of giving live birth?
Yeah.
So I think she's just overweight.
That's on my bucket list, is to start working with dragonettes.
They're so fun. It's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how difficult was it to turn this into a business?
I guess it's hard to say. I mean, I want to say, it was easy. I mean, but it's definitely been a lot of work. You know, my girlfriend and I, we had to build our entire rooms. We built our own tables, did all the plumbing ourselves, set up everything ourselves. So it was, pretty exciting to be able to, put the work in ourselves and see all the accomplishments that we've gotten so far. We definitely want to get into a retail store, so we still have lots more goals to go. But yeah, really the hardest part is just the space. We just need more space. We want more tanks.
I added on a room to my house, and now it's full, and I need another room.
Well, see, we need more people to get over there to K&P Aquaculture so that they can expand more. There you go.
Oh yeah, that's the goal.
There you go. And so, have things gone? When did you actually open for business?
January.
Okay. And things have gone really well since?
It has. It's done very well. The locals here are very supportive. It's been really nice. A lot of people are really understanding that we aren't really doing like low, we don't allow people to really come by and come see anything in person currently. We really want to be able to get into a retail space instead to be able to allow people to come through. But they've been really cool about it. When we've actually shipped quite a few orders out recently too. A few to the East Coast.
Nice. What?
And
Go ahead.
oh, things have been going pretty well. I always like this time of year because it's the easiest time to ship.
Yep. And what is your shipping range? Like everywhere US or?
Currently just in the US. Right now, because any new business that gets started, especially through FedEx or UPS, the shipping rates are pretty high in the beginning. And you basically have to get enough shipping orders to where they'll lower the prices to get the better rates. We're kind of in those beginning processes, trying to just work with people. I know that shipping is kind of tough. So we try to, throw in some freebies and do what we can to make it worth it for them until those shipping rates can go down.
So we know you love the gonies. You've said that. Where are they going to go when the seahorses take over the tank?
Oh, I have so many tanks. I've got about 18 saltwater tanks currently, so they can go into any of them. This is just their sweet spot. I get the most up to about 2 inches out of some of my gonies.
I'm sorry, you froze up. You said you get 2 inches out of what?
I get about 2-inch length right now out of the gonies currently back here. I don't know if you can kind of see them all moving. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I can try to zoom in a minute. But and what's the lighting on the tank that the gonies love?
I'm using aqua illumination. This one is the Hydra. It's an older model, so I think it's 26. Yeah, I think the 32s are the newest ones. Either ones are really great. I'm very happy with them. I get really good growth, good color. And I grow all corals. I have, SPS, LPS in there. A lot of the corals that are in this tank are going to be taken out. I just like to be able to fill in the spots. So.
Of course.
Are you having any luck propagating sponges, or have you tried?
I haven't really tried propagating any sponges yet. I want to start getting into some of the decorative ones. Right now, I've just got, like some of the basic ones. I think I have an orange. Oh, you can't really see it, but an orange one tucked away in the back over there. I want to get a spider sponge and try my luck on one of those. With this tank, I am doing regular phyto feedings versus some of my other ones that are like every 2-day feeding. So these ones are pretty happy, but there's tons of filter feeders in there. So I've got like this rock right here is my cocoa worms. And then I got some feather dusters in there. This one here, it only comes out at night, but I've got a pink cocoa worm in there.
Nice. That's so cool. She's got these crazy things. She's got the carnation. She's got everything.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
really cool.
But you can actually see that. It's right here.
Okay, hang on. Let me see if I can, really fast. Let me just see if I can make it bigger. Probably not. We'll try though. Hang on.
Hey, I do have pictures. So you'll be able
Designer
to
clowns.
Oh, yeah. Check out her Instagram.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I love my clownfish. They're the orange and black storms. So I have Poe and Master Shifu.
If I try to mess with it, it's gonna make it even more slower. So we won't. But definitely check out. You know what? Let me try something here. Sorry, guys. One sec. We're very I told her we were very casual on Wine Wednesday. I'm just trying to see if something works better. No, that didn't really work better.
I'm just excited to see somebody else coming in that has the heart for all these organisms and is working at propagating them and not just going and collecting.
Yeah, that was one big thing that bothered me in Hawaii. I actually worked on a dive boat, and then while doing the coral conservation projects, and you see a lot of people that will just harvest and collect, or you see the divers that go out there and they'll collect for the hobbyists. And I wanted to be a part of that hobbyist world and be able to share in it, but I also didn't want to be one of those people that's like, you shouldn't keep that in your tank because it came from the ocean, or you shouldn't be this kind of person. So instead, I wanted to use my tanks as educative resources. Yes. Kind of teach people what you could have, the possibilities, how it could be aquaculture or captive bred, some of the options that you can still do. And not all of my stuff is, I'm guilty. I have some wild stuff definitely in my tanks. I was working on trying to breed bumblebee shrimp.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, I wasn't successful in it.
But yeah, I mean, you know, we have to start somewhere, and the fact that you're turning it into an aquacultured and you know captive bred situation is what really matters for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely it's definitely something that I think is important.
For sure.
I
And don't you do something on
yeah.
the website too, like educational? I'm trying to remember.
Well, we also have like different volunteer programs. So like if you go onto our About Us page, I believe you can scroll all the way down, and I have a link there that just is like different ways that you can help out. Versus, obviously there's the reduce, reuse, recycle, but there's also different ways of just volunteering. You can do conservation cleanups and stuff, even in your areas. So there's a link down there that you can select, and you can find your state if you are in the U.S. and it will get you in contact information for the volunteer coordinator for your area, so you can get involved in groups and help clean up your area.
That is so cool. I mean, that's so
that-
cool.
yeah. That's I've got a couple friends that live down in Corpus Christi, and they work with the sea life rescue down there, and they're the ones that pull in the turtles every year when it gets and they take in everything. If it's a pelican, if it's a hawk, I mean they'll take in anything and rehab it, and it's so wonderful to be around them and talk with them because they're doing so much. I really respect them.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
I
it's
used to
really
work at a turtle rehab center over in Hawaii.
Nice.
well. My brother lives in Hawaii, and he describes to me the things he used to see 20 years ago, the way they were collecting fish and invertebrates and stuff. They used to have these guns that had a hollow tube. I forget what they call. I think he called them sling guns, and they would literally fire them and trap a fish inside this tube, and then throw it into a bag, and then it would be shipped out for sale to the general public.
Mm.
Well, you can imagine what that poor fish was thinking of.
A lot of stress.
Yeah.
No kidding. Sorry, I was trying to fix
Well,
something again.
that they use the cyanide to stun them, and
Right.
that kind of stuff's got to stop.
Well, that's why we need more more companies like this one that care and are trying to make a difference and go
Yeah,
above and
absolutely.
beyond just selling coral, you know. So I'm curious, Krista, do all of that you said that some of your tanks get like the Goni tank gets daily feeding phyto invertebrates, blah blah blah. Do all of the tanks? What's the schedule on your tanks for feeding using the feeds that you are cultivating?
So the phyto feeding, it really is for us. It depends on the amount of corals that you have and the types of corals that you have in your tank. Lots of filter feeding organisms, which is what I have mainly in this tank. I do the daily feedings because they're absorbing that much of the nutrients. However, some of my other tanks, they're mostly just like a lot of just corals. I even have some that are just like softy tanks, ones that are mostly just LPS. I usually will do feedings in those tanks, but I just reduce the amount of feedings that I do, and I'll usually do it either every other day or every 2 days. But that all really is dependent on my nitrates and my phosphates. I just like to keep it very stable, so I'll usually will test those out, see where they're at. If I see a rise in them, then I usually won't feed during that time, or I'll kind of give it some more time. But it all kind of factors into different things as well. If I do water changes, then that's a different story as well. We try to keep our nitrates around 10 to 20 parts per million, and phosphates anywhere around 0.05. Like that's usually as high as I like it to go. I mean, there are cases where I've had it higher. But that's usually what I look out for. So my feedings are not always a set schedule. I try to keep them that way. But occasionally I'll hold off on feeding if my nitrates get a little bit high.
No, makes sense.
I'm curious, since you have your dwarfs hooked with your other system, and seahorses, they tend to go high in nitrates. So how do you control the nitrates in that tank? What have you found to help out there?
So in the sump of that entire system, the whole system is about 100 gallons. So, and my heaviest feedings are just in that 120-gallon tank. So most of the time I have that a keto reactor, and that's pulling out most of my nutrients in there. And then I also have it to where if there was leftover baby brine that got caught into the overflow, it goes straight back into the return and into the main frag tank. So then the fish actually get to feed on whatever's left. The corals will feed on whatever's left. That tank I really don't do any feedings on because it has so much brine shrimp going into it.
Nice, nice.
Makes
Thanks.
sense, right? And since she's dealing with dwarf seahorses, you're not talking about frozen mysis.
Mhm.
Mysis. I think that that's the biggest boo-hoo for seahorse keepers is the frozen mysis. So it's really cool that you're able to do the live feeds like that. So whether we're talking the seahorses or anything else, when you do sell them, do you advise customers to make sure that they get the Fido and the feeds and such, or?
I guess it would depend on their method. If they're wanting to grow their own brine shrimp, which is a little bit more convenient, I do sell it and we have subscription services for it. However, it just makes it easier if you just have it on hand in case there's any emergencies or anything went wrong with shipping or anything. You don't want your seahorses to starve. But the Fido is I definitely recommend, definitely pick up a bottle if you're wanting to grow your own. And I actually have a video I made. I just haven't actually posted it yet of my whole process of when or how I hatch the brine, what I do like 2 days later when I actually pour the Fido in, how I enrich it, all the way up to, basically start to harvest.
So are you sharing it with us or just teasing us? No.
I will be sharing it. I'm a little slow when it comes to the editing of videos. Unfortunately, I'm really not tech savvy. So that's actually my biggest area where I have to learn the most.
Sure. No, I get it, and I was just teasing you. It's fine. But no, that we've been trying to get Dan to come on here and show us how he does his hatcheries and such forever. So don't feel bad. I totally get it. It's time consuming to do that kind of stuff for sure.
It is,
Um,
especially when you have a lot of tanks to maintain.
right. What does that look like for you? I know that you're now a business, not just a hobbyist, but like how much time a day is spent to not just feeding, but water changes and oh my goodness.
Well, so to keep us from getting overwhelmed, we'll space out the tanks. Back in the day when I only had a few tanks, I would usually just save it for one day a week, and I would just have a set day where that was water change day. Now with all of my tanks, it's usually on a need to need basis. So whatever tank needs it most will be the one that I start with. And then I'll just go from there. We'll just do like one or two, maybe 3 tanks in the day. And then I usually will get my shipments sent out. If I have any maintenance or clients or anything that I'm helping out, I'll usually get that done for the day and come back. My girlfriend's right there wherever I need it. If I can't finish a job, she's right there to help me finish it when I'm out doing the deliveries.
That
I would
matter.
say maybe 2 full days are spent doing maintenance, and then the rest are usually just, the little things here and there, the little fine-tuned details or making frags, cutting things.
Absolutely. And a good partner means everything for sure. Whether you're talking life or business, it doesn't matter. You're very lucky and fortunate. And, I just want to throw out again, like we featured Krista on Women in Reefing. That video is coming because this is, not just a really cool company that's offering really great things and making a difference in the world, but is woman run. So yeah. Yay. We need more of those too. All right. What other questions, guys? I've got a couple more, but any from you, Cheryl, Holly? I don't know if we're delayed or if everybody's just ignoring me. That's all right. Okay, fine. So with all of the tanks, but obviously I'm especially interested in the dwarf tank that's hooked up to another tank. What is the main equipment that you just find essential? Like, do you use a lot of socks? Does every tank have a skimmer? Anything that it's gonna be in your tanks?
I mean, for seahorses or for dwarfs, I just recommend just an upkeep of water changes. That way you just don't have any risks of anything really going wrong. Um, like I said, I have the Kato reactor in there. I actually don't have any skimmer or anything into that system because I have so many corals that are absorbing the rest of it.
Right.
The tank above it is actually mainly Euphyllia and zoas. So they actually like dirtier water as is, which is pretty nice. And they absorb a lot of that. The LPS corals love the brine shrimp. So I don't really like to have a skimmer just because of that reason. And I do so many water changes in that particular tank, but I do run skimmers in other systems that I have. But the most equipment that I have in that particular system is really, so I guess I'll have to actually like upload a photo so you guys can visualize it better. But the sump has just got the predatory system with the heater in that. That way he's pretty hardy. The toadfish can really survive quite a bit, even if there was a fluctuation in temperatures or anything like that. They're kind of they're meant to be a sump dweller because they're a bottom dwelling species. And even low flow for them. So it makes it nice. I really don't have a lot of upkeep in there, just a lot of macroalgae. So he can kind of just swim around there. He's hidden and protected in there. There's macroalgae in the Seahorse tank. Then I've got the Cato reactor. So a lot of different macros all pulling out nutrients, as well as the LPS and the soft corals on top.
Oh, please believe I'm a macro gal. I'm all about it. I know that the macros work for sure. Right there with you. And I do definitely want to see a picture when you post it. Tag me because I'll share it around because it sounds like an amazing system. What temperature do you keep, or what temperature is the heater set to? I forgot the name already. Sorry. in the Predator.
To be honest, I think it's sitting at 82. It's
Okay.
the 300 watt Eheim heaters. It's not a bad one. I haven't had any issues with it. I know there are people who have had issues with it, but I also have it set on Inkbird just in case I have any temperature spikes, so it can let me know.
Nice.
But that one usually runs a little bit high just because it's 100 gallons total and it's running through a whole bunch of piping. So usually when it gets up into that system, it's usually 77 to 78 for that top tank. And then once it reaches the bottom, it goes down into like the L shape all the way across and down again, and then into the tank. And that's usually when it will cool. I think the warmest it's gotten in, and it really depends on the day. I don't have AC in the house. So the warmest the bottom tank has gotten with the dwarfs has been about 76. But I usually will keep an eye on that as well. I am constantly checking the heaters on warm days, making sure everything's good, the temperatures on it, making sure it stays cool. And I've also got like frozen bags of water. Yep. So if I have to, I can put them in the sump to cool down the water.
Well, and we talk on this channel all the time that, yes, of course we recommend under 74 degrees, but it's more about spikes. So if you've got a system that's, even if it does rise over a period of time and lower over a period of time, that's not a huge deal. Whereas someone who's got it going shoo, 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 that's no good. So, and I just love it. I think like I said, I want to see a picture because that sounds so cool that you can literally see the temperature change through the attached tanks. That's freaking amazing to me. I mean, it really is. People have asked about this forever, and I'm always like, no, won't work. You proved me wrong. I love it.
Yeah, I definitely didn't do it intentionally. It was definitely a cool discovery.
Well, that's how we grow and we learn, is by trying things and figuring it out. That's the best thing we can do. So just and I know I'm jumping around, guys, but I keep thinking of things to ask her, so you know how it goes. So out of all the things that you have grown, let's say corals at this point. What is the thing that you have just really felt successful after you achieved fragging it and selling it? Did that make sense, or did I ramble on? Okay.
I've just been thinking, I'm like, what of all the corals that I've had?
And I promised her no surprise questions, and here I am giving her surprise questions. Love it. Sorry.
I think the hardest frags that I've had to cut was my recent one was a blasto. I've had this really, really nice. It's an Indonesian blasto, but it's got like these really cool variated strains that I really haven't seen very often. So I know it's a little bit more rare. I know like the market prices are usually going about like $300 a head. So I was really nervous to cut it. I was up to about 15 heads. It was a pretty decent sized colony. I recently cut it about a month ago. And I was really nervous because there was a couple of the cuts that just weren't quite as nice as I wanted them to be. Some of the heads were really close together. And I just actually peeked in the tank the other day, and they're really coming together nicely. They're healing up. I had one of them have like brown jelly, and so I was really worried about that because I know like brown jelly can spread to the rest of the corals. Yeah. But someone told me that they were reading a Reef to Reef forum thread about furin 2, which is the fish antibiotic. And they said it works great for corals. And I was like, there's no way I would try a fish antibiotic on a coral. Like, I can't see that really working. He's like, no, trust me. He's like, there's a whole forum about it, and it treats brown jelly. He actually walked me through it. He's like, it's 1 packet per 3 cups of water, of tank water. And then you can usually let that sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. And I was like, not sure about that. I was like, I've never dipped anything for that long in my life. But now I swear by it. Even the torches I've struggled with, Even like I actually recently cut one of our really nice torches, and I nicked one of the flesh, the bottom part of the flesh on it, and it started to recede on that side. And I was worried about it getting an infection, so I dipped it again in Furin 2, and it came right back the next day, like nothing had happened.
That is so
It's funny
funny.
because
I was Cheryl. I'm getting ready to ask you a question. I was going to say that's so funny because Furon 2 is like big deal in our world. We use it for anything going on with seahorses. But Cheryl, why do you think it's doing so well helping coral? And what were you going to say?
It's hard to say. You have to look at the chemical formulation of each antibiotic. It's like Metro. We know that Metro will pretty much wipe out anything. We know that you can't use formalin with basically most invertebrates, except for maybe Neisseria snails, because it's going to kill or panicure. It's going to kill everything. But it's one of those things that just some corals. It's like I brought in some scales, scrubbed them off, dipped them, put them through coral dip. Next thing I know, I had spaghetti worms everywhere.
Oh, wow. Hey,
and obviously, what I did not get rid of the spaghetti worms. It went coral. And the thing is, unless you experiment, you don't know what is or is not going to work. And that's where the deep breaths come in.
Sure, but I think it's so cool that Krista did figure out and learned, but now is using this method. Hi, Dan. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey, Dan.
And Krista, Dan, Krista. Dan is Mr. Seahorse, so he might have a few dwarf questions, but probably not. Anyways, Dan, I'm curious if it surprises you. I don't know if you just heard, but Krista learned and is now using Furon 2 to heal like brown jelly and all of these other things in coral. I know you're not a coral guy, but does that surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me because many meds are multi-purpose, and Furon 2 with the nitrofurans can be used for multiple different things. I'm always leery about overusing it, but I know it can be used for more than just as a quote unquote antibiotic.
Yep, and what really interests me is what that means about what brown jelly really is, because nobody, as far as I know, nobody really understands it, right? Is that right, Krista?
Yeah, from everything that I've read and gathered, there can be, no one's really solved like, oh, this is exactly how it caused it, or this is what. Usually people just know how to determine the signs. And that's usually just seeing any kind of brown flesh or that flesh deteriorating and turning into that goop. I usually like to try to look it under a microscope, but usually at this point now, any signs of it, I just don't even take a chance now, and I'll dip it. And it definitely is a bacterial infection. No doubt. It attacks the flesh, and there's no parasites on it, no pests and anything like that. Like I've dipped corals where it will have that, and maybe thinking it could have been like polypod flatworms or something irritating it. And I don't ever get pests coming off of it. It's just the flesh. And if you don't treat it quickly, within a day, the entire flesh will just turn into goop and disappear very quickly.
Hey, one more
question. You're using it on corals on a regular basis. Is it just on zoos, or what all are you using?
Actually, the worst ones I get are torches and gonies, which is like my favorite corals.
And they're supposed to be like pretty sensitive, right?
Yeah, they're one of the more sensitive species.
So that's awesome that you found something that works. And I was actually
it's not guaranteed, but it's better than the alternative.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was curious too, when you I know that your company is all about aquaculture and propagating, captive breeding, etc. But when you do get new coral in, whether it be from a local or wherever you get it, do you have a process where you actually quarantine or dip or anything like that? Coral.
Yes.
Okay.
If I get anything, even if it as long as it's from like friends, like local farmers or anything, I always dip it before it goes into my systems. But those will go into my aquaculture systems because I've seen their corals grow. I know that they're doing well. Anything, usually if I get it wild, it's maricultured. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the pieces recently have been from Indonesia. I don't know if it's going to change now that things are going to be reclosing. However, so the mariculture pieces that I have, they go into a 210 gallon. And that's in a separate room in our place. And it's strictly for quarantine. So everything that goes into that system will sit there for a few months. I usually like to let it sit for at least 6 months if possible, just to see how it grows, see what colors develop out of it, how it does. And then that's where I'll either frag it or sell the whole colony as is. And on my website, I'm very specific. If you go down into the details on the bottom, it'll tell you whether it's aquacultured, maricultured, or where, at least where it came from, to my knowledge.
Awesome. Honesty. Please, we need more places that are honest and tell you the truth and give you a heads up about what you're dealing with. So that's really cool. And with the quarantine tank, you're just observing. You don't treat.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just strictly observation. Everything gets dipped before it gets placed in there, just to try to avoid pests. I know that's not like guaranteed, but we do our best that we can. I also will cut the bases off the rocks of a lot of the mariculture colonies that I get, just so that I don't have to risk anything coming in on that. A lot of the pests will lay their eggs either at the base of the corals, down on the rock. So I usually just like to eliminate the possibility of that altogether.
Sure. And
It's
so
interesting that you're getting corals in from Indonesia, considering they're in the process of trying to shut all of that down. Right.
well,
I heard
that's
you.
what she said.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know. It's been going on for a while, and people are starting to scramble.
Oh yeah.
Well, the people that have the things that people want are going to be the people at the top of the rung pretty soon. So again, awesome job, not only acquiring them, but then doing your best to culture them. It's just hats off, A+, etc. So I'm curious. I got to ask you the basic questions, and then I know that Mary really needs help with her seahorse. So we will. I'm not ignoring you. Dan's here now. We'll get to you. But fish. What is the fish that you have bred that makes you the most proud?
Currently, I haven't really gotten too many fish. I mean, it's been just the basic clownfish that I've had breed. The ones I've been working on that I really want to get going are the Bengai cardinals. I know that they're a fairly simple one, but I haven't gotten them to actually breed yet. They're in here. The male is definitely, he has his jaw, right? Like you can definitely tell he's the male. His jaw is more elongated and larger, but I haven't seen any signs of mating behaviors yet. But I wouldn't say I actually have had too much experience as far as breeding a lot of different fish. I started more with the basics to learn more about it, and that's kind of where I'm starting to expand from.
No, makes sense. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot because you're going places. You've only been open since January. I shouldn't be like, what have you done? Where are these? Yeah, sorry.
Those clowns are going to breed. They will make a pair.
Sure.
Oh,
And
I
Dan,
have 10 pairs of clownfish.
I'm sorry. And Dan, I wanted to let you know, in case you didn't catch the beginning, she's actually currently trying to breed dwarfs. She has a system that is literally plumbed into a reef, in which she has a predator tank, a reef, and a dwarf tank all plumbed together, and somehow she's got the temperature raising and lowering throughout this tank to where it all works out. And she plans on breeding the fire reds from Ocean Rider. So just to let you know what's up with this lady. She's awesome. But
Cool.
yeah, so okay, you said the fish, you said the coral. Anything else that I haven't asked you that you want to share before we jump into just chatting?
Can't think of anything yet. Hopefully we'll have more stuff available. Oh, I also do sell urchin hats.
Oh, wait.
Fun little one.
Yeah, show us the urchin hat. There's a little delay, but we'll wait because we want to see
Oh,
it.
hold on. I'll go grab it. Real fast.
Grab it. We got to see the urchin hat.
Oh,
I love those. Heather posts those all the time. I see them every morning. They're so funny and cute.
that is so funny. Especially when the one wears a Roman helmet and a cowboy hat at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
And we can look at her
Alright, so
beautiful
here's a
tank while we
few.
wait. Okay, sorry. There's
Oh no. You
And the
guys are
pe-
making me want to get some urchins.
okay,
I
so Krista, I need you to like pose and hold still for a minute because the Zoom is just for some reason a little behind. We're gonna fix
Okay.
this by next week, but it's a little behind, so I want to make sure that people in the audience see it before everybody's like, "Ah, how
Musician's
cute!"
hat. Those things are hysterical.
Oh, God.
Her urchins change them constantly.
Oh yeah, and we make custom ones too. I do like Mickey Mouse hats, cowboy hats, pretty much anything that you can make on Thingiverse with a 3D printer.
What's funny is when you see one urchin that's totally naked and the other one's completely covered, and you know what happened. The one stole the others.
Yep.
Of course, he's hiding in the back. I have an urchin in here. He's carrying a wizard hat, and he's carried it around now for 3 months, hasn't dropped it at all.
Wow.
But it's so funny because he'll clean all the algae in the tank, but this hat is completely covered in algae.
His favorite.
He likes his hat.
He's blending in.
Yeah.
He's
Can't clean his
blending
hat, but he'll carry it around everywhere.
in. Oh.
That's
thought
so
that
cool.
when I first saw those, I was just rolling on the floor laughing.
It's definitely fun. It adds a little character to it.
Yeah.
Love it. Hey, I want to say really quick, thank you so much for coming. Please, when you do post a picture of the system, just to kind of describe what we talked about tonight, make sure to tag me so that I can share it. And when the dwarfs and then the red beauties come for sale, make sure I'm told first. Let's be real, and then let me know I can share it. No, I'm totally being funny, but for sure. And yes, I just thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. And I advise everybody out there, go check out this website. It will be in the description when we're done because she's doing great things. I mean, even just go freaking check out how you can see what you can do in your area, man. That's so cool. And we just appreciate you coming and sharing with us. And we wish you all the best luck in your endeavors.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I was really excited to be here.
Of course. And I'm gonna open it up for chat now. If you have to go, Krista, no problems. But I am gonna open it up because we gotta talk. We gotta try to help Mary real quick, Dan, especially since you're here, if possible. So Mary has a sick female erectus. She's been having to force feed. Tonight she put her in Artemis microbe lift. Don't even know what that is, but should she add triple sulfa and furon 2 in addition to this? She has cardinals and clowns. Okay, I don't know what that's about, but so I can actually give you the backstory because she messaged me. So let's see if I can find it really quickly. And if you guys have any questions for Krista while I'm looking for this, feel free.
Hey, my latest, just for Kelly's looking it up.
Yes.
I walk in the fish room. I've got 4 young seahorses in there. I all of a sudden freeze. One of them is hanging almost upside down with his nose or snout sitting on a rock. Okay, I'm getting really, really worried. Then it snicks the amphipod. Seriously, that's what
You're
it
so
was
silly.
doing. Scared the you know what out of me.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's terrible. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this. Okay, well, I can tell you that.
I thought it was sick. I thought it was something that got it injured or something.
Yeah, no,
No.
I got you. Hey, Krista, one question I did have for you too that I forgot to ask. How many systems are you currently running full of things that you're selling on the site?
I guess like systems as far as all the tanks plumbed together, I'm on
Sure.
8 separate systems right now.
Wow, amazing. I mean, that's like a true brick and mortar. You do need a facility, but
I do.
you really do, and I can't wait to see it. I want to come visit it, but I won't be trying to come visit your home. I totally understood that part too. Yeah.
We all need to invade her.
No, not at least not till she gets the place. We don't want to go jump her. But yeah, just really cool. Okay, so anybody who wants to help, Mary had an issue with the seahorse. It stopped eating. She had a pneumonia and nitrite spike. Okay, so and I tried to communicate with her to find out more information, but what I got was she used methylene blue to fix the problem. This is what she said. And then now everything is okay, but the seahorse just still won't eat. Do you guys? That's what I said.
Now, what is the Artemis microbe lift?
I don't know. Mary, if you're still with us, I'm sorry it took so long, but we're here to help. So give us some more information, and we will try to answer your question. I was looking for her message, and I can't seem to find it. I know it was on the page. But yeah, I mean, Cheryl or Dan, you don't. I mean, like methylene blue is absolutely not to be used in a tank, right? So I'm a little concerned.
Well, you can use meth blue if you've got a problem with hypoxia, but it's not going to do anything if there's an antibiotic or bacterial infection or a parasitic infection.
Well, what is the okay? While I look for this, what is the advice if you have a seahorse tank and you get ammonia or nitrite spike? Dan
For that, you would want to go with
or
meth
Cheryl,
blue.
you would
Well,
want to go.
first thing you want to do is e- yeah, but first you need to address it
Why?
by either one, doing a massive water change, or two, putting in an ammonia neutralizer.
Yeah.
Um, that would be the very first step. But what I would do in this setting, since it's in with other animals, I would do the water change. And if the seahorses weren't eating, is I would isolate them into a quarantine tank to further evaluate and or treat.
So am I wrong? I mean, I always thought methylene blue could not be used because it would kill the good bacteria. You had to do a hospital tank. Am I wrong?
Well, you may be right there. I've never used methylene blue. I've never had the need to. Um, but it would also stain stuff. And I would think, did she have corals in addition to the fish?
I'm looking. I'm looking. Sorry. And Mary, if you're still with us, let us know now. I'll just read this off real quick, guys. So I found the message, um, and I'm only reading it to try to help, Mary, since you came tonight. But please help, my seahorse won't eat. I had a nitrite spike in the tank, which I corrected. The male is fine. Her respirations are about 48. She pooped, so she must be eating right. And then she's, asking if it looks okay, blah, blah, blah. And I added methylene blue after the spike so they wouldn't suffocate. Changed the water, added live rock, bacteria, copepods, amphipods. I've been putting live brine to stimulate her. 2 days ago, she had a huge poo, and I thought she might be constipated. The male's fine. So she might be eating when I'm not looking, but when she got here, she was more active in eating from my fingers or a turkey baster. Now she just sits and watches the copepod. Nothing abnormal on the skin. She kind of sits funny and hangs upside down. Well, my female does that, so I can say that's not exactly abnormal. But so is she? What do you think, guys?
Well, if it's just a nitrite spike, I wouldn't be near as concerned because seahorses can handle a fair amount of nitrite without it being a problem. The not eating tells me there's more going on, and I'd like to know how long she's had the animal. I'd like to know the full history of what's going on to better be able to isolate. Not knowing the facts, I mean,
Yeah.
if it's just a matter of not eating, I would try a hospital tank with 5,000 micrograms of B12 daily for 3 days to see if that would kick it back into eating.
And the B12, just real quick, is it helps stimulates them to eat.
If this is
Yes,
the case I'm
B12 acts
thinking
works
of,
as an appetite stimulant.
yeah,
Antibiotics, I need to before I recommend using antibiotics, I'm looking for a reason, something that indicates a bacterial infection. And sometimes you can't tell, when it's internal, but still, I think there's more going on than what meets the eye here. I don't have enough information really to begin to diagnose let alone
if this is the
specify an
seahorse
exact
I'm
treatment.
thinking of, uh, I saw a picture of it. That's the seahorse was head bobbing to breathe. It was trigger breathing.
Mm.
Uh, for the trigger breathing, because of that, I was thinking ciliates. It had then after a freshwater dip, 24 hours later, it was still slightly head bobbing, no trigger breathing, and definitely was appeared to be doing much better. The
How long
question
was the
now,
dip done for?
I'm sorry,
How long was the dip done for?
it was only for a few minutes because she panicked based on what she told me.
Okay.
We
And
always do.
yeah, most people do.
And I'm thinking it helps some. Uh, the seahorse apparently hasn't been eating for several weeks. She's been tube feeding it, which could also explain the trigger breathing if there was any problems associated with the way she was inserting the catheter to feed it. And that
Sure.
again, I don't have sufficient information on that.
Hey, Cheryl, was this information that you're sharing, was it in Seahorse Sources group?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I told her to go there. So I wanted to make sure
Yeah.
she was. Okay.
Yeah. But again, what I advised her to do, since the seahorse is breathing better, is upright, it's not really moving around, I got her to move it into a hospital tank. And I advised her to consider seriously getting some antibiotics, because if it is a ciliate infestation, there is a very real potential for a bacterial problem setting in as the ciliates die.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would be less concerned about that, particularly if I used formalin as a treatment method. And I would be inclined, based upon the history thus far, to do a 45-minute formalin drip at 1 ml per 1 gallon and follow that up with a long-term immersion with 1 ml per 10 gallons given every other
Right.
day for 3 times, and
I,
then
I was
reevaluate.
I went with the formalin initially, and she was not able to obtain formalin. Again, I gave her some references, and so we went with the freshwater dip. And as of right now, yeah, I'm sitting there to wait to see what happens in the next couple of days.
Sure. Well, thank you for helping her. She came into the show, so I wanted to make sure we did ask her question for sure.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's always hard diagnosing and trying to treat long distance. And I advised her to consider picking up some triple sulfa and furan 2 as another potential treatment. And she ended up with Metroplex.
Mm.
Yeah, that's metrodiazonal.
Not the same thing at all, right?
Now, metrodiazonal usually isn't good for most bacterial infections. The main reason we use it for seahorses is treating urinema.
Right. Gotcha.
No,
Well, good.
it's one of those things where all we can do is try.
Absolutely. Hey guys, totally not trying to change the huge subject. Mary, I hope that you got this information, and we'll continue to help you in Seahorse Sources group. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them here, and we'll try to go further with you. But I did forget, oh my gosh, Holly's going to kill me. I forgot to say at the beginning of the show to comment raffle if you'd like to be entered into the drawing to win the essential prizes. So we might have to just go back through the comments and enter everybody into a random drawing. I apologize. I should have said that at the beginning. My bad.
I want your female.
Now we're talking essential oils. No, Holly, sorry. Or I mean, Cheryl, sorry. But yeah.
She
So
looks just like my male.
right. Hey, Krista, I forgot to ask one other thing, or maybe I did. I can't remember. Sorry. But do you quarantine fish? Like you talked about the coral.
Any fish that I bring into my systems, I always quarantine. I usually do an observation first before I treat anything. Then depends on what I see. That's usually how I'll go about treating it. Most common ones that I usually see though are like you guys were talking about urinema. That one's a really bad one, especially for chromis. And then ick is always obviously the most common one. But ick, I usually actually just treat it with hyposalinity, which is like 1.012 to 1.015, somewhere around there. And then if, depending on the fish, sometimes I'll do copper. But I never do it for any smooth skin fish. No angelfish, no puffers, no wrasses, fish like that.
Gotcha. Absolutely.
When you're treating uronema, what are you treating with?
That's usually when I've been using I've tried 2 different options. I've lost some fish and I've also kept some, so I'm not really sure what works the best. But I've used Metroplex and I've used Furan 2.
Yeah, because I did it years ago, but I used chloroquine phosphate.
Oh, okay.
Which was a 21-day treatment.
Did that work for you?
Actually, it did. In fact, I had a wild-caught pair of tiger tails.
Oh, okay.
And this was a pair that were emaciated when they came in. And I was literally jumping out of bed at before dawn every morning, running in just to see if they were still alive. And they made it over 7 years.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. But it was one of those things where I paid $30 a piece for them. And I mean, it wasn't going to be a big loss if I had lost them, but I was bound and determined I was going to find a way to keep them going.
That's really cool.
And they produced a lot of little ones too.
Did they? That's really awesome.
So it was, yeah. Those still have my heart.
Absolutely. Krista, how soon do you think you're going to take that dive? Look, I'm pressuring now. I'm like, I want the captive. When do you think you're going to take the dive into the larger seahorses?
I want to do it soon. Mostly, I just want the tank to be exactly how I envisioned it before I put them in there. Right now, I've been tweaking the flow. I was having some issues with nutrients because I wanted to be able to have it to be sustainable no matter how much nutrients I was putting in. So I started the tank already on heavy feedings. But because of the flow issue, especially for seahorses, I was having issues with cyano for a little bit. And that just took a little bit of tweaking, moving the return pump around, moving the power head around. I actually had to put a guard on the one power head that I do have. And that was just, I mean, it's nothing fancy. It was just like mesh covering with zip ties.
What was the problem with the flow?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. That's a tricky thing with dwarf. Now, remember, Dan, she keeps dwarf seahorses currently, so it's different.
Right.
Yes,
but go ahead,
not
Krista.
in that specific tank. That tank I took care of by not putting a power head in there at all. With this one, I wasn't really sure because I know power heads are a big issue with them. Since I want to do larger variety, I wasn't thinking that the power head I have in here, because this is a Tunzi, so I'm thinking that the cover was already somewhat adequate enough, and then I put that mesh guard on top of it. But no matter how I was directing and redistributing the flow, it just was too strong in certain areas, and I didn't want it to be where this, like, any seahorses get harmed or trapped or stuck anywhere.
Put it
'Cause
down next to a rock.
Ideally, you want your flow at least 10 turns per hour, but I would encourage you to try to work it up closer to 20 if you can.
Yeah.
I would say the return pump is pretty decent as it is. I just wanted to add that power head so that I don't have any dead spots in the corners.
Yep.
Thing is, you can add a power head and drop it in behind a small rock, which will diffuse the flow. And the seahorses will very rapidly adjust to. In fact, they will dive into the flow and get. And I've watched them do it. They will dive into the flow, get knocked across the tank, come right back, dive back in again. I've even seen them do somersaults across the tank, swimming into a return, and then they'll turn right back around and swim right back into the return. So it's not like they don't like the flow.
My theory behind that is that what happens is they're rather sedentary creatures, and a lot of stuff ends up getting on them. And I equate it to like us taking a shower. They get in the flow to blow the stuff off of them.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
But but the bottom line is it's incredible because for so long people said seahorses need low flow. And with dwarf seahorses, you're talking about a totally, like, I literally look at dwarf seahorses completely separate from the larger species.
Yeah.
It's just a different ball game. But I'll tell you, with this interview with Deborah about the sea dragons, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, is that sea dragon okay? And it's over there like freaking dancing in the flow, flipping around, doing craziness. So the reason I was even bringing it up, Krista, is because I know that you're experienced with the dwarfs, and that I want to see you be successful. So I get what you're saying. If it's too much flow, it's too much flow. I've got a situation right now where I feel like it's a little bit too much flow for the specific seahorses I have that are larger species, but they can handle more than people think. What you read online isn't true anymore. So just wanted to make sure.
I watched one of my females today. All of a sudden, looked like she was scratching her dorsal fin. But that immediately sends, I'm staring at her, trying to figure out. Well, then I saw this little tiny, about 16th inch piece of a little bit of algae on her, down toward the tip of her tail. What she was doing is trying to rub off the algae off of her tail. As soon as she did, she swam off, was totally normal and wasn't scratching. But they do some strange things that you really have to, even as long as I've been at this, I still have a tendency to stop dead in my tracks and go, okay, what's going on?
Yeah, my dwarfs definitely give me a run for my money. The other day I was in there feeding them, and my male, he kept waving his head back and forth, and he had a piece of algae stuck to his head.
Yeah.
And he just kept trying to get it against the chains and get it off. So I finally reached in and all gently, and I moved really closely, grabbed it and pulled it off his head, and he
was
turned
fine.
and he looked at me like, "Thank you."
Fine. And they'll do some things that you don't believe that they would do until you see it, and then you suddenly realize it's like I use wave makers, but I use them behind rocks, so the flow is completely diffused around. Of course, they're also completely covered to make sure if anybody hitches to them, they're not going to get a tail in the impeller. But you can watch them, and they'll swim over there sometimes and hitch in front of them, and again, they're removing stuff off their bodies.
Yep, I've shown seahorses literally hitched to the cord that leads to the power head, literally with their face in the flow. And Krista, I wanted to say too, you nailed it. I don't go for any craziness. I always cover my power heads with the mesh net and zip ties. It doesn't look pretty, but hey, it just doesn't make it to the picture, right? It's cool.
I was gonna say, if you hide it and no one can see it, then no one will know.
Exactly. And with
anybody else have males that like to get bubble massages with the open-ended airline?
Of course. But yeah, and with the in my bigger tank, my 90, I had one of the Max Respect. Is that what it's called? The Gyri. You know what I'm talking about, Krista?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have 2 of those.
Yeah, and it has the covering that you can get, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that I didn't do anything to, and they were fine with the covering.
Oh,
But
okay.
Kelly, have you watched them move back and forth very slowly to massage different areas of that huge pouch when they're about ready to deliver?
I've not seen that, Cheryl, but I believe you.
That cracks me up when they do that. My engines were notorious for that one.
Cheryl, we need you know what? You need to hook up with Siren Song Seahorses. All these people hear about your awesome seahorses and we never see them for sale, ma'am. But
yeah, I'll get some.
Or K&P Aquaculture. There you go. Let's all do a little hookup here. But I'm so proud that we had 2 women-owned businesses on tonight, sharing what they've got going on and just supporting each other. I'm so glad that you both came. All of you came. And I am trying to shorten Wine Wednesday, guys, because we usually end up going to over 2 hours. So we've been going an hour and a half. I've kept Krista all night. She brought her wine. She joined me. I appreciate it. And we'll be sharing the pictures that she shares of the system that is plumbed into the reef and the predator
I'll get that
tank.
sent to you tonight.
Yeah, no, sure. Or just post it and I'll share it from you. You know, it's fine.
Perfect.
Either way. And watch out for the Women in Reefing video. We asked some of the same questions, but a lot of it was different. Wink, wink. So check that out. And of course, check out Siren Song Seahorse. Holly, I just admitted while you stood up and walked away that I forgot to say type raffle. So what we're going to do is we're still going to be fair. I'm going to look at.
She forgot about the raffle.
I'm going to look at.
Seriously though, when you do get your larger seahorses, stay in touch with the network in terms of the Seahorse Network in case you have any questions or concerns. Carol there at Ocean Rider, and so is Peter G. There's a lot of information. They'll give you a lot of support, as will the Seahorse community. Now, we want to see people succeed. We want to see them do well.
Absolutely. And then you come back to Wine Wednesday and share how great you're doing, and we'll make sure your seahorses get top priority in sales. But
what do I do?
Miss Holly?
Did we share the secret discount code?
No. Let's share the secret discount code, and that will be also in the description. And what I was going to say is what we're going to do, it's so that we can stop and figure it out, is we will either go live either tonight or tomorrow, and we're going to take all the names of anyone who attended tonight on Facebook or YouTube, and we're going to draw 3 people to win. But with the raffle code, please share, Holly.
Oh, so this is a code you can use on my website to get a 10% discount off any of your purchases. The code is WINE.
There you go. Can't beat that.
And I
Hit
believe
wine.
it has to be all caps, I
Creative.
think.
Well, I'm about to go test it out. And here, let me really quick before we stop. In the comments, I'm going to put this is K&P Aquaculture's website. It will be in the description also. But for anybody who's still here, I want you guys to get first dibs on the discount code and also go check out what K&P Aquaculture has on their site currently, and just stick with them because it'll get even more. So you said it's a period instead of a comma, right, Holly?
Baby.
Yes, it's Siren Song Seahorses .ecwid.com is my store. If you go there, I have, the pendants I mentioned, the custom done ones, and then I have the organic fragrance oils. They're made from a blend of lavender, patchouli, cypress, and sweet orange. And they've got some fluorite chips in there to help keep the oils mixed and give it kind of a positive vibe. And then seahorses are available through private arrangement only. You can message me if you're interested. I have 9 available right now. So that's, a private deal going on. So just let me know if you're interested in those.
And I must say, Holly, your seahorses are looking fabulous.
Cheryl, stop being jealous of my female. She is beautiful, but you cannot have her.
But she matches my male so perfectly.
Nope, it's mine. But yeah, we'll be talking more about that very soon, of course, too. And so, Holly, are you okay with that? Doing the raffle either, let's just say tomorrow. We're going to collect the names, and then you and I will go live on Facebook and YouTube tomorrow and do the raffle live so that people can see it was randomly generated. And if you did not put raffle in the comments, you're still entered because Kelly screwed up. But is that okay with you, Holly?
Yeah,
Okay.
just do everyone, or maybe if you're not interested in a fragrance oil, put that you're not interested. I
Yep.
don't know, some guys might not be.
Well, we'll do it live, and if they come back and say, no thanks, then we'll draw someone else. We'll figure it out. It'll be fine. But we are going to do it tomorrow. Blame Kelly. It's my fault. But happy grand opening, Miss Holly and Miss and Siren Song Seahorses. I'll be getting my pendant to wear on the show from now on and show off, and we'll talk soon. But most importantly, I want to thank Miss Krista of K&P Aquaculture for coming and sharing with us tonight and hanging out with us afterwards. Thank you so much for coming, Krista.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And I'll be buying some of those Gorgonians, so you'll see those soon. All right, Dan, did you have anything else you wanted to share before I cut it?
No, I'm good.
Okay, well, thank you for jumping in. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you to you in the audience, and we'll see you next week. Everybody say bye.
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 Happy Wine Wednesday. Cheers. Krista, you can do the cheers with me. Put your glass up to the camera.
Cheers.
Cheers. Look, we're almost empty.